Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's the Matt Murphy Show. Hour number 2 is cranking up right now. I don't know. We're working feverishly to get the squirrels pushing the cages in the little thing, what is that called? The little
hamster wheel.
The hamster wheel. Thank you. We got the squirrels and the hamsters going in the same direction, and hopefully we'll be able to hook up with Donald Trump's interview with Mark Levin in the 5 o'clock hour. I promised that at the beginning of the show, and now I have to kind of back off that promise because I don't know if we've got all of the magic wheels aligned in the same direction. One way or the other, if you don't hear it in the 5 o'clock hour, I think you'll hear it in the...
At 7.
No, not at 7. Would it be at 7?
Yes.
I think they racked the last one first. I think they racked the last hour first, and then, well, I could be wrong.
I believe you would hear it at 7 o'clock because
one way or the other. Later.
We've had breaking news in the 6 o'clock hour that would be covered later.
I got you. Well, one way or the other, we're working on that. That's in the 5 o'clock hour. Right now, focusing our attention on issues around the state of Tennessee. And so pleased to have our good friend Cameron Sexton back in studio with us. He is the Speaker of the House. He's a fine representative from the Cookeville area. And he joins us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's going on?
It's great to be here. You're looking good. You're out of your sling and everything.
I am out of the sling. I'm excited. They tell me that I'm supposed to be animated, that I'm allowed to. The problem is every time you feel good about your progress in PT, another week rolls around, and then I call her Abigail the Abuser. Mm-hmm. She brings up another series of little exercises that demonstrate that you are not anywhere close to where you want to be. She promises me that I can swing a golf club by sometime in October.
Well, good. Let's go. We'll go.
Get me now.
My treat.
Get me now, Sexton.
No, I want you at your best. I don't want any excuses. I want you at your best.
Well, I hope to be at my best as we talk about some of these issues today. Let's talk about the barbecue event. What do we call it? I forget what it's called.
Burgers and Brews.
Burgers and Brews.
Yeah, we don't do barbecue.
Okay, the Boots and Barbecue. That's another guy.
Yeah,
we don't talk about his.
No, Jack's a great guy.
No, Jack's good. And I'm picking, if any of Jack's people are listening, I don't know that Jack got 2,000, though. You got 2,000?
We got over 2,000.
That's pretty good.
It was good, yeah. I mean, look, for a rural area in East Tennessee, it was a good event. It was great. 6 to 8 o'clock, we had fireworks at the end to end it.
Why do you, how long have you done this?
So this was my 5th annual event, so we've done it for 5 years.
I mean, is it just a way to get the community together?
It is. It's free of charge. We don't charge anybody anything. They come out. We send it out. We bring in various people to speak. And it's grown every single year. I think the first year it started off about 500 people, and it's grown every year since.
You had, was Clay your headliner?
Clay was the special guest.
Clay Travis,
yeah. The governor was there, and others were there as well. And it was a great time. The most fascinating thing is where I live in Crossville, I have a lot.
I think I said Cookeville, by the way. I apologize.
Okay. It's okay.
My bad.
I represent down into Allgood, so I get close to Cookeville. Is that we had individuals who moved from California and Ohio and New York. And we were at the event, and the guy comes up to me after the event. And he goes, "I just want to thank you so much for having this because this is our 2nd year here." And I said, "Well, thank you for coming. I really do appreciate it." And he goes, "In California," he said, "it's much different." I said, "Well, yeah, we all know that." And he goes, "Well, when I went to vote last time in Tennessee, I met every single candidate on the ballot except the President of the United States." And he's like, that does not happen in California. And he's like, I just appreciate that the candidates coming out to these events so we can meet them in person. So when we vote, we actually have met them, and then they're just not a name.
You know, I think personality and the traits that candidates bring with them to these meet and greets gets lost sometimes in the political campaigns. And what I mean by that is, I think somebody says, oh, it's just a personality contest, and they say that like it's a bad thing, but personality matters. People want to believe that you'll look them in the eye and you'll tell them that you're going to do something, and you follow up and you actually do it, and that you have the best interest of whatever community, municipality, district, state that you serve. They want. I mean, the people of Tennessee and the people of the South generally, they want to see that.
They do, and then when they look you in the eye, that's a different experience, right? If they see you on TV, they see a thing in the newspaper, but when they meet you and you're not in your suit and tie and you're in your casual clothes or whatever it is, and you're able to sit down with them and eat with them or just talk to them, it does develop a relationship where they see you as a human.
I had an opportunity. I thought about you. I was talking about you recently because I had an opportunity to speak with some young conservatives, and it happened in the House chamber. Senator Mark Pody put together a Young Conservatives Day on the Hill. He got some of his interns to put it together. It was exciting for them because they put the event together, and they asked a number of people, and I'm sure they got way down the list before they got to Matt Murphy, and Matt Murphy said hello. And my role was to talk about, media in the modern era and how media can impact how they view the world. But I was sitting next to Beth Harwell. Who you guys have to have a special bond in that both of you have been a Speaker of the House, and your face was up on the they put the speaker up on the screen. Welcome to the House of Representatives for guests and visitors, and I asked her about what has gone down in the House chambers over the last couple of years, and she said, "Well, I wouldn't have wished it on anybody, much less my good friend Cameron, because that's just a different world, a different animal that you have to deal with. It doesn't feel like the real world when you have to deal with some of the extracurricular activity. I'm not talking about the gallery activity.
Right.
I mean, that's one thing. I'm talking about the people on the floor that feel like their job is to get on television on a regular basis.
Well, I mean, at the end, it's just a lack of respect for the institution, a lack of respect for someone who is a representative just like you, and then they want to play the victim and the race card every time that they get the opportunity. Look, at the end of the day, you're going to have those people, unfortunately. A lot of times they're the younger generation, not the older. And you look at the Democrats who are in the older generation, they don't like what they're doing either. Mm-hmm. And so there is, for the most part, almost everybody gets along there for the most part. We're going to disagree on some stuff. But there's just with the younger generation, you can see it with AOC in Washington and others. You can see it here in Tennessee. They just have a lack of respect and decorum. They don't see it.
Well, and my point always, and you and I have talked about this in the past, and I won't belabor it, but as you represent your district, but then you represent the body as Speaker, and the body votes on the rules.
Right.
It is up to you, and you are sworn to enforce the rules that the body voted on. And so it's not like it's Cameron Sexton against any representative. It's the institution that creates the rules that these people seem to want to violate.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, they're going to do what they want to do. Rules don't apply to them. You can have all the rules in the world. They don't really care. And it's also the same thing is you have people out there who are violating the criminal code all the time, and they don't really care, right? That's just what they are. The rules are meant to be broken. That's what they want to do. They're going to do what they want to do. They were on MSNBC here not too long ago talking about they're going to do anything they need to oppose whatever happens. And it's more about getting news. It's more about being promoted themselves, and that's what they're about. They're about promoting themselves. They're not about representing the district because they're not doing a dang thing for their district.
Well, and I set all that up to applaud you and the leadership in that was 2 years ago was when the major disruption happened. Last year, we didn't see a lot of it.
Right.
We saw some attempts. What changed? What did you learn as Speaker of the House from one year to the next about some of these characters that don't seem to want to advance their legislation, don't want to advance, their agenda. They just want to advance chaos.
Well, the rules weren't set. The rules were set up for the 60s and the 70s and 80s when people had respect for one another, right? The rules that we were using today, they weren't set up for people who wanted to disrupt on the House floor and do all the different things that they were doing. So we got the rules to a point where there's different options that we have now. When we ousted, there's only two options. Three: censure, kick out, or do nothing. Right now, we have a lot of varying options that they don't like that would remove certain things from them that they really need. And when they figured that out, guess what? They're going to calm down,
settle down. Well, good for you, and good for leadership for recognizing the gap between. What happened a couple of years ago and what happened last year, and it was an obvious success. I'll talk about next year a little bit later on, but I wanted to ask you about the issue of schools and school choice. The big piece from last year was the Education Freedom Scholarship. We're seeing it implemented now. It seemed to be a great success in as much as, I feel like the 20,000 seats or the 20,000 scholarships, I should say, have been filled. I don't know the exact numbers, but they were well over that in terms of application. Can you give us an update as to where that is and how successful you feel like it's been?
Well, it's very successful. You had probably double the amount of people applied than we had scholarships for. So that means there is a need and people do want to have the access, right? And so it does show that there's support for it. There's a poll done by the Beacon Center now, and all of a sudden, if you look at the polling, Republicans, Democrats and independents all want the plan to be expanded. They want to expand from 20,000 on up because they see that there is a need. So that's the second thing that goes back. If you look at where I live in Crossville, we have a private school that qualified. They had 31 kids this year that got the scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And for people to say, well, rural communities aren't going to benefit from this, yes, they will. They will benefit. Parents will benefit. And so it's been hugely successful. I hope that we go back in January and we expand this even further to allow more families to have the same opportunity as these 20,000 that got it on the first round.
I would love to get a chance to speak to some of the naysayers. I invite them regularly on the show. I invite Representative Gloria Johnson almost weekly on this program. She does not accept the invitation because I would love to hear where she's getting her facts when she and some others, I think Senator Heidi Campbell was out doing the same thing. They were claiming that the money is coming from public education to fund these scholarships. It's my understanding that this was money exterior to the education budget. Kind of set the table as to what that is.
Yeah, so this scholarship, it's not the ESA, this is the Freedom Scholarship. It was money outside. It was funded through the general fund, through excess revenue that was recurring. We put the money in for 20,000 scholarships. It can only go up if we appropriate more money. That money was not going into K through 12. It didn't come out of K through 12. And so it's not defunding public education at all. Look, when you can't fight on the substance of allowing parents to have an opportunity for their kids to be successful, and you don't want to allow that to happen, when you're the Democrat Party, or you have some Republicans who join the Democrat Party in school choice, and they say, I don't think the parent should have the opportunity to move their kid to a different school. You should stay in that failing school. That's not right. There should not be a single student in our state or single family in our state that if that student is not being met in that school for whatever reason, that they should not have an opportunity to be successful. You saw during COVID in some of the counties, Williamson County being one, the school board's not listening to the parents, and the parents had no recourse a lot of times if they didn't have income to move their kid to a different situation. Mm-hmm. And so this allows everybody to compete for that student. And when they're competing for that student, they have to meet that student's needs, and that way we'll be successful in the end. Well,
one of the things, and I know it's kind of a little bit of a weedy question, but one of the things I get hit with is the possibility of raising tuition rates at the private schools. I would think that is something that the parents of the kids that are going to those schools need to monitor, and they need to raise some of those objections with the individual private schools. Because, I mean, if you're raising, have you seen any of that, by the way?
We haven't seen it. I mean, look, the percentage, if you have 20,000 scholarships in the state, the number of kids who are in that school taking that scholarship is not going to be the majority of those students. And so if you raise the rates overall, you're raising it on everybody. And so you're going to have going to have other parents come in and say, what are you doing? And so the system will work itself. You can't police everything. And Republicans, you allow the system to work it out, and you figure it out. And parents will have choices to send their kids to varying private schools. The best thing that we did in this bill, one of the best things, is we made the private schools have to be accredited. So you cannot just come in the state of Tennessee and pop open a private school and get a scholarship. You have to go through an accreditation process that takes years to make sure that you are providing what you need to provide for those students.
And I understand that there will be aspects of this that will continue to be examined, and no one that was promoting from Governor Bill Lee to Cameron Sexton, at least as far as I've heard, to anyone on the Senate side, suggested that it would be perfect. But what I heard overall was we are going to attempt to do our best to infuse a certain spirit of competition within the system. And I think competition within the system is what is going to solve our public education issues.
Right. I mean, look, if I talk about it all the time, K through 12 is a monopoly for 90% of the parents out there. 10% of the parents can afford to send their kids somewhere else. That also includes those parents who want to homeschool. You know, there's people who want to homeschool who are against school choice. I think they have school choice through homeschool, right? And so what the thing is, when you have a monopoly and there's nowhere else to go, you're not going to have competition. You're not going to have private schools come in. You're just not going to do it. You're not going to have great private schools come in and try to get accredited. And so what we set up is an opportunity to improve our education system and put the parents in charge of it once and for all.
Quick time out. Cameron Sexton with us. We'll talk immigration in a moment, maybe talk a little bit of tunnel coming up as well, and find out what Cameron, I mean, believe it or not, I know it's August, But I think you guys are already kind of game planning the next session.
We are.
I believe that's the case. So we'll talk about that a little bit on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Quick timeout. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is the Matt Murphy Show. Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton. If you have any questions for the Speaker of the House, now's a good time to ask them. Get them up on the Super Text line, 615-737-9986. I'm going to lock the doors, and we'll have him. We've got a brief segment here, about a 2-minute segment, and then we got a little more of an extended segment on the other side as we continue to ask him about some of the activities going on in the state of Tennessee. I don't want to lose this one, though, because I have reminded folks, I was fresh into the state when the census had happened, when redistricting was going on in the General Assembly. But I was so impressed with the way that the congressional maps were redrawn. And legitimately, the presentation was simple, that Nashville, Tennessee is too important of an area in the state of Tennessee to have one congressional representative, when we could split it up in such a way where they have multiples. And in this case now they have 3, 5, 6, and 7. It just so happens that those 3 are now Republicans, and the Democrats lost a seat. But you correct me if I'm wrong, Cameron, but after all of that happened in the General Assembly, there was no congressional challenge to you guys, was there? Hold on a second. Jackson, get it for me. There, go ahead.
Yeah, no, there wasn't. They challenged the Senate and House, but not the Congress.
What was it about that? I mean, what are your parameters when you're doing that? Because you're not bound. Talk to me about the Texas thing, because everybody's freaking out about Texas. But, I mean, I understand that it's a little out of the norm, but there's nothing to say that you can't redraw the maps anytime you want, right?
Yeah, I mean, apparently you can. Look, I think that the way if I get this wrong, somebody will correct me, I'm sure. But the state and House has more rigid requirements to draw the maps than Congress. And Congress, the reason congressional maps look a little different is you have to have it down to the person. So there is no variance amongst the districts. Mm-hmm. So if every district's supposed to have 722,131, every district should have that exact number. There may be one that has one person more, but it has to be very detailed. That's what they want. And look, Nashville got a bigger share of voice. I got 3 voices in Nashville. Democrats don't like it, but we like it, and we're 9-1, and I think we're doing great things.
When you watch what's happening in the state of Tennessee, state of Texas, when you watch what's happening there, I mean, as Speaker, I mean, does your heart go out to some of the leadership over there? I mean, but all they can do is scream and yell national chief and not do their jobs.
Yeah, well, I misspoke. It's 8-1. We have 8-1. Sorry, I don't want somebody to come in and say,
no doubt.
We hope to get to next census to have 10. Look,
if we stop counting the illegal alien activity, maybe we will.
We might get to 11. You never know on that aspect, because California's going to lose millions of people. They're going to lose a lot of seats. And look, the interesting thing is Texas looking to redraw it, California's looking to redraw it. At the end of the day, the Republicans have the majority in Washington, D.C., and if the Texas wants to go redraw it, so be it. They can. I think we're doing about as best we can right now. 8-1. Love to have 9-1 if we have the opportunity.
I want to ask you about. I want to circle back to schools, because several people have asked me to ask you the question on Memphis. Speaking of the lone Democrat-run congressional districts over in Memphis. There's a suggestion that the state is looking into doing what it needs to do to get those schools where they need to be. I want to ask you that in just a second, right after the news on Super Talk 99.7 WT. All right, 39 after the hour. Cameron Sexton in studio with us. He's the Speaker of the House, about to jump into – I promised I would jump into the tunnel. I promised that I would jump into the issue of immigration as well. 9322 says – I couldn't make it to Burgers and Brews this year. If I couldn't, will I receive an invitation next year? I think it's an open invite.
It's an open invite, and we have a newsletter that goes out. And so if you contact my office, if you're not on it and getting the emails, we'll put you on the email, and you'll get the notification.
Before I forget about it, so where are we? The suggestion is that the Memphis school system has gotten to the point where it's simply not serving the folks that have children within that system. At what point are we in the possibility of the state looking to take that over?
Yeah, I mean, the state takeover, maybe not so fast, but a takeover, yes. And it's been decades. It's not like it snuck up on us. It's been decades, with billions of dollars being spent from the locals and from the state. And so there's 2 competing bills right now in the House and Senate. The Senate version, they both set up a board that would have ability to oversee the school system. The Senate version doesn't give them any authority to line item veto, be in charge of the financing, do anything to the budget, be in charge of the school property. It's more just a total oversight with some suggestions. What the House version is more teeth. They have the capability to do in control of everything. You keep the school board intact, but they would be in charge of the final decisions. We like the House version a lot better. We think it would allow to appoint local people to go in for up to 5 years, and you can renew it for 5 more to turn those schools around. Good leadership will change those school systems. You have so much nepotism and so much other stuff in those school systems and so much fraud, waste, and abuse. You can't put in a board, in my opinion, and in the House's opinion, that has no authority over it. It'd be like me serving on this East Bank Authority that they keep saying has authority that has no authority. I don't want to put a board down there that has no authority to do anything. If they see something wrong, all they can do is make a suggestion. We want them to have the authority to turn those schools around.
What about Nashville? I mean, I anytime we mention Memphis, someone brings up Nashville Metro Schools.
Yeah, look, they're not performing well either, and they just went through this whole $6.5 million lawsuit thing that they settled, which, whatever. The schools aren't looking great. They're taking charters and removing the students from the charter schools and rezoning these things. I mean, they're playing politics games as well. I'm not going to rule out that we don't come in after Nashville at some point either. Right now, our focus is on Memphis. We got to figure that one out first, but I'm never going to say it's not possible.
I hear my good friend and colleague Dan Mandis on Nashville's Morning News. I mean, he is after Dr. Adrian Battle, and I think with good reason. I mean, there seems to be a complete lack of leadership there. And often we are asked, well, can't the state do anything about that? There's not a lot that you can do about personnel changes per se when it comes to those local types of decisions. Am I correct?
Personnel, yes, unless we go in and we put a board over that has the capability. But you can also look at the attainment levels and the proficiency rates. There are schools that's proficiency rates are abysmal, and I mean abysmal, like 10% or less. And the schools should be turning that around. The problem that Metro Nashville is having in the school systems, they have some great magnet schools, but that's where they put all their best and the brightest, and they keep them there. And so all the other schools are behind, and then they want to shut out charter schools. They want to be against school choice. They want to be against all this stuff. They're against everything that would improve that child's education and outcome. At the end of the day, the Democrat Party wants to keep you suppressed. They don't want you to be successful. The Republican Party wants you to be successful, want to give you the opportunity to be successful, and that's what we try to do every single day.
Are we seeing success in the state of Tennessee regarding immigration and doing what we can do to assist the Trump administration? I think it's an obvious game changer when you have Donald Trump in office because he directs his forces, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Border Security, to do what is necessary to work with organizations like the Tennessee Highway Patrol. I thought it was a great operation that happened in Nashville, despite the fact that local leadership seemed to hate the idea of getting criminals off the street for some reason. Are you comfortable where we are, and is there anything further that you expect that we will do to continue the process?
Well, we're going to continue to work with the Trump administration. I talk to law enforcement all the time across the state, and the biggest issue they had is when they picked up somebody, they would call the Biden administration, and nobody would ever come. That's not going to happen with the Trump administration.
And that's what happened with Abrego Garcia, right? Is my understanding.
Well, I mean, there's a Somalia immigrant. We're still looking through the research on the Nashville Steps today, or the other day, that got arrested for killing a woman after a vicious rape.
And we'll talk about that in the 5 o'clock hour.
So there's things happening, and for Nashville to try to protect those individuals is just ridiculous. We need to have ICE come in. We need to work with them. We did the 287G. We've done a lot of different things. We have a person who works directly with the federal administration. When they come in, we have a coordinating of it. The interesting thing is you watch the Democrats roll around late at night joking and laughing, and they're not about law and order. They're not about protecting public property and public safety. But at the end of the day, we're going to work with the immigration officials to make sure if you're here illegally, then we're going to remove you.
I had what I've been referring to as a beer summit with Mayor O'Connell. He wanted to talk kind of off the record about some of these issues. And he was frustrated at the language I was using, pushing back on his characterization of what Tennessee Highway Patrol and ICE did as making the community. And I said, you said that they made the communities less safe. You literally turned the script around and made the law enforcement community the bad guys and the criminal community the good guys. And his response was, well, there are a lot of people within that community that feel less safe now. And I was like, are we talking about illegal aliens? And he, of course, took exception with the characterization of illegal aliens. But at the same time, he said yes. And I was fascinated with that approach. And my response, Cameron, and I just kind of posed this as a way of asking you the question, was, well, I'm sorry that there are people. I understand these are human beings, and I'm sorry that these people believed your lie that y'all told them years ago that if they just get here and stay long enough that it makes it okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, and it just doesn't. I hate that for them, that they believed in all of that. And maybe at some point there's a path to repair that down the road for them, but we've got to deal with the real criminal elements that are within those communities right now, whether y'all like it or not.
Yeah, it's the same philosophy they have with criminals, right? Oh, y'all being too hard on criminals. You know, you got to be softer. You're making them unpleasant. You know, they didn't know what they were doing, and you should be easier on them. You know, at the end of the day, they came here illegally. That's the point. And so if the immigration system's broken, then Congress needs to fix it on how to speed it up so people can get in our country quicker than 3 years, right? That's part of the problem. But if you come in illegally, you're doing a disservice if we allow them to stay to everyone who did it the proper and correct way.
100%.
And you cannot do that. I will tell you, when you talk to people who came here legally, they are as frustrated as anybody with those who come here illegally because they did it the right way and we're allowing the wrong ways to come in. The Republicans and Trump are not going to allow that to happen. We want to keep our community safe, and we're going to ship them back to where they need to go if they're here illegally.
The tunnel, the last time you were on in studio with us, it was the big topic. The announcement had just been made that day. Are you excited where we are in terms of progress?
I'm excited. I mean, it's looking great. You know, I mean, I think we're moving in the right direction. It's all going to be under state roads. And, you know, it's fascinating as you sit here and watch and listen to the Metro administration as a general body, because there's a bunch of them in there who make these kind of comments. Who say that, you know, well, we didn't really know about this or so forth. And it's just nonsensical. It's not right. And I do.
Freddie admitted, I don't mean to interrupt you, Freddie admitted that they talked to Boring in 24, to me.
Well, they talked a lot sooner than that. But what I will say is I can tell you the conversations that Metro Nashville administration had with the governor's office and the governor's team, they said, we cannot take this to Metro Council. So if you're going to do this, you need to do it under state highways.
They said
Period.
There you go.
Once that's been said and been done numerous times, and I know Governor Lee and his administration are not going to lie about that fact. That was a known fact. And so when you tell the state, well, we can't take it to Metro, you know it's coming. There's no hiding it. And so the thing is, just tell your people that you didn't want it. That's fine. That's what they don't want it. Supposedly, they say. I think a lot of people do. But at the end of the day, don't try to hide behind nuances of political speak. Just be out there.
The fascinating part of their disagreement with this, and clearly it's because it's a Boring Company and it's Elon Musk, and for some reason they seem to have a disagreement with it being a private venture. The state is entering into a partnership in terms of, you know, allowing the use of the property beneath state rights of way, but it's largely a private venture. It accomplishes what they claim publicly to want to accomplish, to get, you know, emissions belching automobiles off of I-40, to bring that tourism industry into the state, to give them a convenient and electric way to get from point A to point B. You would think that they would be all about it. I predict that they will be. I predict that once this thing becomes a success, they'll jump in front of that and offer some city-owned property to get some more routes.
Well, maybe. I'm not as hopeful as you. But look, I think at the core of the Democrat Party, they don't want private investment coming in because they lose control. They want mass transit because they're in control. Mm-hmm. They can tell you when to ride, where to get on, where to get off. They never make money. They incur much debt, but they're in total control. They are scared when someone comes in and does something private because they no longer have that ability to control them. And Republicans, we want more private investment in their state. We want more businesses coming in the state. We don't want it government funded. We want it to be privately funded, and that's what you have, and it's going to be hugely successful.
Have you had, switching gears a little bit, have you had conversations at all with the governor's office? And if not, would you be willing to? We see Donald Trump taking over some of the control over the criminal activity in Washington, D.C., and obviously that's a one-off. The president can't do that in Nashville. There would be, but I would think that the state and maybe the governor's office might have an ability to do more. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't pretend that Nashville is anywhere close to Washington, D.C., because it's not. But, I mean, you mentioned this Muhammad, illegal alien from Somalia who had an ICE detainer on him, raped a woman. She died at the hospital. I said yesterday that if our capital punishment laws do not cover this guy, I think we're doing it wrong. But I'll get into the details of that. But with all of that in mind, is there any conversation going on about dealing with our higher crime areas, whether it be Nashville or Memphis?
Yeah, I mean, we have. So we've been a lot better of getting grants going into the high crime areas in their state. So if you look at zip codes across the state for violent crime, there's maybe 8 in our state. And then we looked at it on the House. We can do hot maps. And in Memphis, there's 3 zip codes and there's 5 streets. So let's take our resources to those 5 streets, right? And so be smarter about how we approach crime is first thing. Second thing is, if these people were here illegally, they shouldn't have been here in the first place, so that crime should have never been committed. The third thing is, most of these individuals have committed other crimes, but they're still out on the streets because they weren't put in jail long enough, and so our criminal code at the time probably wasn't going to be able to hold them. And then you also have a bail problem in our state, which we're hoping to fix next year, which is you have to grant bail to anybody, even this Somalian person.
$300,000 bail. Yeah, I think that was the figure I saw.
Next year, I hope all your listeners will vote for the constitutional amendment that would allow that judge to deny bail for that individual. Because right now, that judge has no ability to deny bail. That person should not be seen outside. Now, maybe they can't get out of prison, but also you have to know these bail companies, they're not paying 10% of that $300,000. They can do payment plans. They can do a lot of different stuff. So we're trying to fix it internally ourselves. If we get really bad, we'll be happy to work with the federal government. But we want to take care of our problem and let the president go to these other cities like Chicago and New York and L.A. and clean those out because those are really bad.
Did you last Saturday get asked at all, in the couple of minutes that we have left, did you get asked at all about, we've seen a couple of endorsements in the governor's race very early on. Are you kind of staying out of that for now? Or?
Yeah, I'm staying out. It's much too early to get involved in that. And
I should ask, are you staying out of the governor's race? I mean, maybe you're throwing your hat in that ring. I don't know.
I appreciate the question. Look, I think you're out from everything. You got to let things part. And petitions still haven't been picked up or turned in, so you really don't know what is and what isn't going to happen. Look, I look forward to working with whoever it may be, whoever that is, and whatever role that anybody wants to play. I think we're doing great things in the state of Tennessee, and we're going to be very successful long term.
Final question, because in the lead up to your event this weekend, you were talking about announcements, and several people reached out to me and said, do you think Cameron Sexton's running for the 6th Congressional District? I mean, I'm just asking where your mindset is now. I mean, obviously, Congressman John Rose is leaving that role to run for governor. That opens up. That's your district. And being that you're in leadership in the state, questions are asked. And what is your thought on it right now?
No, I'm not done here in Tennessee yet. I feel like I'm still led to be here. I'm in a great role due to the members of the General Assembly who vote me to be Speaker. And I think we made a big difference in education and in crime and other things in our state, healthcare. And I think there's still more to do. And going up to Washington to where you sit there and twiddle your thumbs all day, I'm not really sure that's for me right now. So I look forward to continue, hopefully, to serve as state representative and serve as Speaker if the body continues to allow me to do that.
Cameron, always a good conversation. Thank you for spending some time with us, not talking to me, but talking to Middle Tennessee. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Go Vols.
There's Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton. Worst thing he said all day. Cameron Sexton on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.